Hello everyone, in this video we are going to see an interesting SQL interview question, repeated payments. Sometimes payment transactions are repeated by accident. It could be due to user error, API failure or retry error that causes the credit card to be charged twice. Using the transactions table, identify any payments made at the same merchant with the same credit card for the same amount within 10 minutes of each other. Count such repeated payments. And there is an assumption section given. The first transaction of such payment should not be counted as repeated payment. That means that if there are two transactions performed by merchant with the same credit card and for the same amount within 10 minutes, there will be one repeated payment. We are given a transaction table which has transaction ID, merchant ID, credit card ID, amount and the transaction timestamp. And if you see this example, for the merchant ID 101, there are 3 transactions, and for the merchant ID 102, there are 2 transactions. If you see the first 2 transactions, it has the same credit card and the same amount, and the transactions happened within the last 10 minutes. If you see the third transaction, it has the same credit card and same amount, but the transaction time is greater than 10 minutes when compared to the previous transaction. For the merchant ID 102, there are 2 transactions, but the amount is different. In this scenario, the transaction 1 and the transaction 2 is a repeated payment. So the output should be 1. I hope the question is clear. Now let's see the implementation. Here is a transaction table which has the transaction ID, merchant ID, credit card ID, transaction timestamp and the amount. Here is our input transaction table. Let's select the columns that are required. I need merchant ID, credit card ID, amount and the transaction date. Now using the lag function, we will find the previous transaction timestamp which has the same merchant ID, credit card ID and the amount. Let's implement that. Lag of transaction timestamp over partition by merchant ID, credit card ID, and amount. And we will order the result in ascending order based on the transaction timestamp. Order by transaction timestamp. I am going to alias this as previous transaction, as previous transaction. Let me run this query. Now we got the transaction timestamp as well as the corresponding previous transaction timestamp. Now let me create this as a temporary table. With CTE as, let me select this table, select star from CTE. Let me run this. We got the same result. For this record, we need the difference between the transaction timestamp and the previous transaction timestamp. Let me see the difference. This is my transaction timestamp minus previous transaction. Let me run this query. We got the difference between the transaction timestamp and the previous transaction. Now we need the count of number of records which has the interval of 10 minutes between the transaction timestamp and the previous transaction. Let's do that. Here I'm going to print the count star where transaction timestamp minus previous transaction is less than or equal to interval of 10 minutes. Let me run this. There are 4 records which has the same merchant ID, credit card ID and the amount with the interval of 10 minutes. Let me submit this. The solution got accepted. I hope you like this approach. If you do like this video, please consider to subscribe and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.